I think you're going to see MAPS make some big announcements for this conference.
Okay. Okay.
What that exactly is, anybody's guess. I think you're going to see some major partnerships being developed for building out again that clinical infrastructure.
Hey everyone, welcome to our latest TDR Psychedelic exclusive. I'm your host, Shad Deals. Thanks for checking in. Psychedelics is moving. A lot of infrastructure moving on the back end. We want to welcome back Cody Shandraw. Good to see you, sir. It's been a few months, but a lot of the stuff that we talked about last time you were on is coming to fruition, is it not?
The crystal ball.
Crystal ball.
Early predictions.
Yeah. Anthony Verrill, good to see you, sir. How are things?
How's it going? It's good. I mean, love the sector when it started to come onto the scene, and it's good to see some positive momentum.
Yeah.
Love where
Isn't
we're
it?
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
A lot of great momentum last week.
Long overdue.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
You're founder and managing partner of Ambria Capital, which is a venture capitalist firm heavily invested in the psychedelic space. Also the president of the Healing Commercial Real Estate. Want to get into that about what that model is. But last couple conversations we've had with people like Peyton Nyquist from Numinus, it pretty much, from what I'm gathering, it seems like it's a foregone conclusion that the FDA is going to approve MDMA. Do you not agree with that?
I do agree. Listen, for two reasons mainly. Number one, safety profile of the drug is amazing. Okay. Number two, look at the rate that it's curing people at. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was 67% in the last go around. I don't know all of the drugs that are out there, but I mean, the next closest comparable from someone who's very close to me that served a very long time in the armed forces, a drug called Paxil, and I think that has an 11% success rate. So
11.
So if you're looking at comparing apples to oranges, why would you not want this available to every single person that qualifies for the drug? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, I said off the top, there's a number of things that you mentioned to us last time we had you on, which, believe it or not, it's been 3 months already. Where does time go? Good seeing you actually down in Miami. What a time that was. Here we were at the Soho House, just mind our own business, and some musician comes in and he's dropping his equipment every 3 seconds. And all of a sudden we turn, guy gets on a mic and says, "Hi, my name is Wyclef Jean. I'd like to play some music." And everybody's heads were like, "What?" Anyways, good times to
Miami.
Yeah, exactly. But getting back to what I was saying, there's insurance codes that you brought up, approved by the American Medical Association, where a recent result of U.S. insurance payer codes was approved, which really makes this interesting for the space, knowing that the MAPS readouts, I'm hearing, is going to happen within the next 30 days. So if you can, maybe educate our viewers with this approval from the AMA and then MAPS readout being, let's hopefully, positive from what I'm seeing. How do you see this all playing out as far as the industry? We're going to move fast here.
Yeah, so I think it's a couple things. Well, listen, the MDMA side is amazing, but now what those codes do is set the foundation for other psychedelics that are going to be approved. So while this is a giant win for MDMA, and obviously we're getting very close to that approval, but then you start looking at psilocybin with Compass, then listen, regardless, any of the designer drugs that are coming out, now that the infrastructure, and of course it had to be MAPS laying the way for all of this, but now all of the rest of these companies, they're going to have a much easier time, number one, raising money, and number two, making sure that their drug is going to be delivered. It's one of the big things that's kind of the untalked about dirty secret of this industry. All of the ketamine clinics, I think there's 2,700 of them in the US, maybe 3 to 5% of them are going to be able to accommodate MDMA therapy. I think that's one of the...
Why is that?
So ketamine, you're sitting in a very small room.
Yep.
Okay. And a majority of these locations are set up anywhere 4 to 10 rooms. You come in, get your dose, throw the eye shades on, listen to a little music, dim the lights down, then you're out of there in 45 minutes.
Okay.
MDMA is going to be much different. Long duration therapy, you're going to be in there anywhere from 48 hours. You're also going to have 2 therapists in the room, which 99% of these ketamine clinics do not have the capabilities and space to use their ketamine rooms as an MDMA therapy room. So there's going to be a giant, and when I say giant, I think that the hurdle for the first 24 months of adoption are going to be very, very difficult for this to be deployed accordingly. That's one of the reasons why, like you were talking about healing. It's one of the reasons why we started that company. I mean, we'd invest in 51 companies in the space, and we started looking around and we're like, okay, well, drugs are going to get approved. All of these ketamine clinic companies, and listen, for good reason, right? Like, I'm a capitalist, so I want these companies to be able to treat as many patients as humanly possible while still making money. But the problem is building out those small rooms that can accommodate more treatment rooms. Now with MDMA coming online, where is all this going to be? Where's the MDMA therapy? Where's the psilocybin therapy? Where are these things going to be done at?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge issue that
we keep asking. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, so I was going to say, my next question was actually going to be, so can these operators, I guess, retrofit their current facilities in like a CapEx light way? And I'm assuming no.
I think it's going to be almost impossible. Like, I've been very lucky to talk to over 250 doctors that are operating in the space, obviously through, Healing Maps, my investment in that company, being the chairman of that company. I've gotten to interact with a lot of doctors, and then all of the clinic companies we've invested in, the drug development companies that have these clinic operators on their boards, advisory teams. And what are you going to do? You're going to go shut down your practice while you're ripping apart your practice in order to put it back together to accommodate? Probably not. And that was, again, one of the foundations of setting up Healing Commercial Real Estate. Is we were like, listen, why don't we do this? The doctors know how to operate their business. Let's leverage the data that we have from Healing Maps. Let's go through, see where the people are searching for these therapies. Then we went in, we added another tool to identify domestic abuse survivor shelters, VA clinics. So now you can really target these locations, and we cover all of the work. So guess what? If you want $250,000 of tenant improvements done in this building, we'll come out of pocket. We'll build these things specifically to your liking, exactly how they should be to accommodate these. And then listen, it works great. If MDMA is approved end of this year, middle of next year, you can still use all of those rooms for ketamine. It's a beautiful thing. And then once MDMA is approved, now it's turnkey. You're ready to go. Flip the switch. It's done. You're in there. You're operating. The facility's already been built out for it. You're done. And then when psilocybin gets approved, now the rooms that you've been doing ketamine and MDMA therapy in, you can do psilocybin in too.
So
are there any traditional assets that you guys are seeing that you can retrofit in the market, or it's pretty much you got to purpose build these clinics for what you want to use them for?
I don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce, but yes, we've looked at. I actually just got back from visiting a facility very close to me that would work very, very well. If you think about what is required, right? Long stay, need to be in that room, like I said, 4, 6, maybe 8 hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
You need to make sure 2 therapists can fit in there. You want to have access to a bathroom, either in the room, outside of it. You can start seeing, some places are much easier to adapt to things like this.
So how do you see the rollout looking from like a real estate perspective? I know it's kind of, you have obviously an idea, but like we said, if we approve this drug, it's going to be, even if the results are phenomenal, you got to have a revenue team, a sales team that's selling this drug. Maps has got to build that infrastructure. So that's going to be kind of like bumpy along the way. But from a commercialization standpoint related to real estate, how do you see it playing out?
So the commercialization thing's a really interesting point, especially on the drug side that I think isn't talked about enough. Is where is this drug going to be marketed to first? Is it going to be in areas that have high rates of suicide, high rates of obesity, high rates of domestic violence? Kind of where is the initial push going to be done for this? And then you start looking at some of the data that we've aggregated, and you can kind of see the overlay of searches. It's really interesting the amount of searches that are being done for psychedelic therapy versus in relation to those 2 things that I talked about earlier, the VA clinics and also domestic abuse survivor shelters.
Yeah.
And also another really interesting thing, a lot of cities with large police and firefighters populations are another huge area of searches, which is really interesting.
So what, like Chicago, places like that?
So I think you're going to see, listen, Chicago, New York, Houston, Dallas,
Yep.
Atlanta, Miami. Obviously, listen, some of those big, buzzier cities. But then you look at, places like Georgia, where Fort Benning is, or if, you look at places like Southern California, where 29 Palms. Like, if you start looking kind of where a lot of these searches are, where there really isn't giant population centers, but there's really high correlations of search for these alternative therapies, you can kind of really start to get a really interesting idea. So, what I think in the perfect world, the strategy is going to look like is you're going to have these operators that are running successful practices
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
They're going to come to companies like us, or maybe they'll come out of pocket. I don't know, but I have a feeling just with the tightness in the markets, whether you're public or private on the debt or equity side, I think you're going to reach out to a company like Healing and you're going to say, listen, I operate 1, 2, 3 ketamine clinics, for example, let's say right now.
Okay.
I'm interested in having an MDMA clinic. Can you do me a favor? This is where I'm operating my clinic. Can you pull up one of those geospatial maps, see what's in my area, see what the clinic density looks like? Is this the best place to open? Should I be north, south, east, west? Where do you think I should go? You'll pick that target. Now you take that target of exactly where you want to be by zip code. You're going to see exactly how many people are in those areas. And then you start breaking down some of the finer points of exactly who your target patient population is. So that way you know exactly how big to build this place. Maybe outside of Fort Benning in Georgia, maybe that is a big 20, 30 room type of practice. But if it's somewhere like Palm Beach where, you're driving around in Phantoms and Lambos, maybe not a lot of PTSD to be taking place there. That might be a 2, 3, 4 room type of clinic. So I think taking the data and being able to.
That's interesting. It brings to mind like just the whole business concept of field trip.
Oh, I mean, 100%. I mean, look at I bet you the Panhandle of Florida is probably a poster child for a large center. You've got military bases, you've got retired vets, you've got
Texas,
population yeah.
Oklahoma, Nebraska, like that's a thing. Nobody's talking about using data to actually roll this out. You see what happened with the companies that have failed. They literally just rushed into these buzz cities, didn't understand the market they were going into. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but we looked at a clinic company that opened up a clinic. When we looked at the geospatial map, there was 18 other clinics within a 6 mile or 6.3 mile radius. Like, I mean, that's bad due diligence. So like that's why I'm so great. That was the first thing when we launched this company. The first thing that we did was go to Healing Maps and sign a 99-year exclusive data agreement with them. Nobody else is going to have that data. It's only us.
Power of AI data. Power of AI data, right?
Knew how important that was going to be for the future of this industry.
Here's an interesting question. When you look at ketamine clinics right now, who's administering it? Like, what are their credentials? And then when we look at MDMA being approved, we talk about, we have to basically train the X amount of therapists, as many as 15,000. So if you've got some guy that's got a ketamine clinic that wants to retrofit it into like MDMA therapy, like who's administering the ketamine right now? And then they obviously have to take a course that we've talked about last week with Peyton regarding the Numinus network to get the proper education. But how does that play out?
So I actually think the therapist number is higher than that. I know that their BCG's report, they were showing 16,000 clinics to be built just for MDMA. I think the therapist is probably going to be 25 to 30,000. Remember, if you need 2 therapists per room, right? And then you're talking about having 16,000 centers built. I mean, do the math there. It's got to be 30,000 people being trained for this.
And how long does that take?
It depends on who's doing the training. I mean, it's going to, at a minimum, probably be 6 weeks.
Okay.
So I'm hopeful that now, as the approval is coming, I'm guessing you're probably going to start seeing some form of college course at certain universities and campuses being offered for something like this. But I mean, if you look right now, that doesn't exist. It's going to take a year, maybe 2. It could even be longer for a university to do that. I mean, really, other than Numinus, I think Fluence, I mean, there's very little. Maps doesn't do the training anymore. That's all done through a third party now. So I mean, it's going to be a heavy lift for some of these private companies. I mean, that's just.
We were at the Benzinga conference in Miami when Numinus made that announcement that week about their Numinus network. But what did you think of the announcement and how that is going to work?
I think that was one of the smartest things at a company. Listen, obviously, I think everybody that's watching this probably knows I'm a giant Numinous fan.
Yeah.
You know, they have done a incredible job of not only making sure that they've created a brand that is, especially in North America, recognized everywhere, but they're also setting the infrastructure now for this emergent. 4 or 5 years ago, nobody kind of knew what this was going to look like, right?
Yeah.
Was it going to be, MAPS was still obviously in phase 2, didn't know if that approval was going to happen, what the therapist requirement was going to look like, was supply going to be an issue, is it going to be designer drugs that have these super long patents? Right now, I mean, I think MAPS is 6 years. So, it was kind of a race. Now that that's kind of been settled, the water isn't as murky anymore. You can kind of see what the path forward is going for. Numinous is doing it the correct way. What is two biggest needs today? Training for the therapist. Numinous just launched that, and then the clinical infrastructure.
Right.
Numinous is doing that, and we partnered with Numinous as well for that. So now, if Numinous signs a therapist or a doctor that says, listen, I want to use the Numinous protocols, I want to be able to expand my practice, they can literally call us up and say, listen, this is one of the doctors. He's in the Numinous network. He's looking for a brand new location. We need you guys to contact him, help him find the best location based on the data. These are the size requirements. We'll go out, buy the building, do all the tenant improvement. They have Numinous' full back end, so it's literally a turnkey infrastructure. I mean, it's really... they've really solved the biggest point. I'm going to be very curious to see what happens. From an investment standpoint, obviously, you guys know I run a fund. I would like to see Numinous divest from everything else outside of there. In my personal opinion, I think Numinous, their true calling is going to be training the future of this industry and operating the clinics of the future. That is my personal belief. That's where Numinous is going to shine. If that happens, I think Numinous becomes the most valuable company in all of psychedelics for one main reason. Listen, let's say it's MAPS Public Benefit Corp with MDMA.
Yeah.
Guess what? Training going to be done by Numinous most likely. The clinics, whoever rules that roost, the MDMA is going to be done in those clinics. Then you look at psilocybin, whether it's Compass, any of these companies doing synthetics, doing deuterated molecules of psilocybin, guess where all of those drugs are still going to go?
Yeah.
Through that clinic infrastructure.
Yep. I hear you there. Anthony, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, with the divesting of the assets, I mean, that obviously shows a core focus. I mean, that's something that institutional guys want to see. Are you seeing institutional interest on the REIT side with the real estate play? I'm assuming it's you're looking at some juicy cap rates and cash on cash returns from the economics of that deal.
Almost every single person that we've talked to over the last 90 days has been institutional money. And surprisingly, have been a lot of other REITs that are very curious about the industry. One of our goal focuses was obviously to get this company public. So that way people that care about the industry can buy stock and support the industry. Mm-hmm. I now am, I'm cautious in telling people, we're going to go public because I have a feeling that once we build the portfolio to a certain size, there's probably going to be an offer made that's going to be difficult for the shareholders currently and the board to decline taking. It's been a tremendous amount of interest just from the existing REITs. You look at Sabra, SBRA is the symbol. They made an $800 million commitment to behavioral health last year.
Wow.
Okay.
Like, when you see things like that, like
when you say a lot of interest, can you give like an example or two what's piquing their interest right now?
Number one is the infrastructure, far and away, because again, look at MAPS. We're very, very close to approval. The main question that comes up, I mean, obviously, listen, we were in Miami together, met with a lot of fund managers while we were there. It seems like the reoccurring question is, listen, everybody's very excited about MDMA. Where is this going to be done at? Because I mean, if you're looking through Maps's handbook,
Yeah.
setting is the most important thing. Are you going to go into a white hospital room to do this? You're going to have the best experience there? Probably not. So in my mind, I think that the smart money is looking at this very intelligently and seeing like, listen, the drug, we talked about this last time. You're looking for that crazy 100x multiple. The drug side's probably there. You're going to have to make a lot of bets and you're going to lose on a lot of those bets, but the one that hits is going to be amazing.
I know.
If you're looking for long-term sustainable ways to generate money and make money as an investor, it's going to be the clinic play because it doesn't matter whose drug gets approved. They're going to be done in these centers.
Did you see the amount of revenue that I was going to say?
I'm assuming you're talking. Go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say, did you see the amount of revenue that Spravato generated last quarter alone? That was crazy. 150 million in one.
It's not crazy though. You know, I think. Listen, you look at the state of mental health, not even just in the United States, globally. I mean, it's awful. So I think that when you're starting to look at alternative, listen, SSRIs have been here for decades.
Yeah.
If they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, guessing you probably wouldn't see the issues that we're seeing today. And listen, obviously there's a lot of contributing factors that probably factor into that. But I really think that the next thing that everybody's looking at are these things where maybe you're not taking a pill for the rest of your life. And obviously it goes against the pharma model. But I mean, I don't know really at this point.
If you want MDMA therapy, it's going to cost between $10,000 and $15,000 spread out over what, 6-8 weeks? Is that, I understand that correctly?
I think it could end up being a little bit more than that. I'm not too sure on the pricing. Listen, I think that each operator is going to, listen, you can go to a talk therapist that charges $50 an hour. And you can go to one that charges $5,000 an hour. So I think the price is going to depend on a lot, but you're going to have prep sessions. Then you're going to have an MDMA session. Then you're going to have more talk therapies. Then you'll have another MDMA session. Then you'll have more talk therapy, your final MDMA session, and then more talk therapy. Well, the therapy is something that isn't talked about enough. I think one of the reasons why you see the efficacy rate so high for MDMA is because they were so focused on making sure the therapy was a core component to the treatment.
Which makes sense.
Can you sustain that variable outside of a lab environment? Because therapy is a commitment that the patients still need to commit to.
Yeah. Listen, man, you can walk away from a clinical trial at any point.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget that. So, like, I think, if you look at rates of, just alcoholism, for example, how many people end up staying with AA or staying with a therapist? It's very low relapse rate. So I don't know. Time will tell. I think that's one of the beautiful.
If you're on suicidal watch, like that Imperial College of London study, where 90 war veterans were on suicidal watch and 67% they don't want to use the term cured, but 87% saw a regression, you're probably going to stick to some sort of therapy knowing it saved your life. Like, that's a life-changing experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things, like, I laugh, I see these companies popping up and they're like, we're taking the trip out of psychedelics. Maybe the spirituality and the hallucinations, that might be one of the main reasons why people end up sticking, is because maybe it's whatever higher power they believe in or spiritual connection that they have. I think that's one of the most important parts. And again, importantly, that's another reason why the clinic is so important, because that is going to have to be done in a clinic for 90% of people. How are you going to approve a drug that somebody could take? Like right now, right? You go, doctor gives you a prescription, you go to Walgreens, CVS, pick it up, take it home, lives on your counter.
Yeah.
It's going to be completely opposite in this industry. It's not going to work like that. You're going to get a prescription, you're going to go to a clinic, you're going to take this, you're going to have your experience there. So it's completely different.
Are you seeing an addressable market internationally? Or are you seeing the conversation move, or you think people will follow suit with the FDA moving on something like MDMA?
I mean, listen, man, you have Australia, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, again, same conversation we're having, infrastructure. You have all these people that are like, I would love to do MDMA therapy. And like, okay, where do you want to do it?
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing and hearing is that, yes, there's some bumps along the road that got to be built here in the US, but we are so much further along than what Australia is. And whatever their rollout is, just the vibe I'm getting is that people should think the same thing is going to happen in the US as well.
Yeah, I look at the international landscape and I think that there will be countries. Listen, the US spends the most money in the world on healthcare, period, and it's not even close to the next country. I mean, I think that the focus is going to be here. I think that the model is going to be perfected here, as most things are. And then it will migrate to other places. I think you're probably a good deal away. I think Europe will have pretty quick adoption.
Yeah.
But I think everywhere else, I think it's going to be, the stigma associated is still so strong. I think in really conservative places, Asia, the Middle East, I think it's going to be really difficult for adoption there.
Yeah. The Western world, man, it's everywhere. Europe, North America, Australia.
Yeah.
It's a big concern that people can relate. But when we talked about the AMA approving these insurance codes and getting back to my original thought of costing between 10 and 15 grand. So what exactly is covered involved in that? If that's an expensive price ticket, but is there insurance codes that for reimbursement, you'll get full coverage for something like that? Is that how that will work?
That is the expectation. So it'll be everything. So it'll be your stay, it'll be the drug, and it'll be the therapy.
All right.
I mean, listen, the beautiful thing is, right, therapy is already covered by 99.9% of insurances in the United States. Hospital and visits are covered. So, I mean, really, it's the drug that needs to be just kind of, figured out, and exactly what the therapy billing code. This is different than going in and talking about your dog getting run over by a car. You're breaking up with your girlfriend. So it's a little bit more intense. So I don't know if that's going to change the costs associated with the therapy. It's going to be interesting to see that.
Yeah. All right, we got the big conference for MAPS in Denver coming up in a couple of weeks. Bold predictions. What would you say is going to happen in this industry over the next 3 to 6 months?
Man,
like putting you on the spot. This is a social clip.
Man, so listen, big predictions. I think you're going to see MAPS make some big announcements for this conference.
Okay.
What that exactly is, anybody's guess. I think you're going to see some major partnerships being developed for building out, again, that clinical infrastructure side. That is by far and away the biggest piece of the puzzle that is missing, in my opinion. And then I think you're going to see a major push towards the training aspect of this. I mean, because it really, let's say MAPS has 6 years of exclusivity. If there isn't enough trained therapists and there isn't enough places to do the drug, you start cutting into profits, and that's going to make people that want to invest into a company like MAPS Public Benefit, it's going to make that a very difficult sell. So I think you're going to see a very, very large push to making sure the emphasis on those are really being developed quickly, but correctly.
All right, so our viewers don't know this, but a couple of Southern Florida boys, you guys got both the Heat and the Panthers in your respective finals in each league. How is the atmosphere down there as far as being a sports fan? Like, talk about being jealous. It's incredible.
Doesn't get much better. I mean, the good thing is the storyline. We were both 8 seeds that took out the number 1 seeds in Boston.
Oh my God! Even think about that.
Yeah.
Both 8 seeds. Oh my God!
Yeah, and think about how crazy this is. Miami was up 3-0 on Boston, lost 3, I then came back and won games. I mean,
they beat them down.
One of the greatest. One of the greatest story in sports. And listen, being a Buffalo kid, born and raised, and watching hockey. Dude, I've been to Panthers games over the last couple of years where there's maybe 2,000 people in the arena. You cannot move in that place now.
Yeah. Was there really only 2,000 people at a game?
At some,
Wow.
Yeah. Think about it. When you're up north, there's really not. I mean, during cold
not much
months,
you can do, right?
the hell are you doing? You're going to a game. You're going to have a couple beers, eat a hot dog, and go watch hockey.
Right.
Down here, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you're either swimming at the beach, pool, bar, music. There's always something to do here.
Yeah.
So where you're like, oh, I can go see
Sounds
a team
like a
that
terrible
won.
place to live, huh?
Yeah,
Terrible.
I can go
No
see
more-
a team that won 20 games last year for $20 a ticket, or I can sit and look at the beach and watch the waves roll in. You're like,
Yeah.
tough sell. Even the Heat game too, man. I was going when Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron were all on the team.
Same.
Dude, some of those playoff games, like half the arena, like the first 2 quarters was there.
Oh, no one shows up until halftime in Miami. It's ridiculous.
There's too much shit to do.
Yeah.
There's too much to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be a hell of
Not
a 2
like
weeks.
that.
I can't believe what you said, though. Both those teams are 8-seeded teams. That is mind-blowing. But either way, I'm making a bold prediction. Well, I don't know how bold it is, but Panthers are winning. They look unbelievable. Unbelievable. Their goaltending is phenomenal. I picked them to beat Vegas in what they've got. Vegas has got home ice.
Vegas has home ice.
Yes. Yep.
First game's this
I'll
Saturday.
be at the games. So follow me on Instagram if you want that live feed,
What's your handle, brother?
At Shandraw Cody.
Nice. Listen, always great catching up with you. We'll see you in a couple weeks in Denver. We'll get some podcasts going with you and the boys, but I appreciate the update, and let's keep in touch.
Looking forward to it, boys. Listen, I will bring the full team out for those sessions up in Denver.
Good stuff. Should be some
Cool. Look forward
interesting
to it.
times.
Yeah, that'll be good.
All right, take
See
care.
you guys soon.
Talk soon.
What's up, everyone? So what'd you think of the interview? Are there any more questions you want us to ask that you want to learn more of? Then leave a comment below and let us know what you think. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like button, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.